Hey folks, this video is going to be a little different than previous entries in the series. I want to take the format back to something similar to what I was doing early on, which was a lot less edited and a lot more off the cuff. Let me know what you think of it, okay? Anyway, let's get started. Conway's mind was always occupied, the flames reflecting in his eyes. Asato had said he'd felt something unpleasant in Ray, and they sounded like words spoken in the heat of a quarrel, but Conway couldn't help but worry that Asato really had sensed something. In fact, Conway also had felt some discomfort about Ray. When Ray and Asato fought, at the time, Ray parried the sword Asato swung down. At that time, he felt like he saw Ray laughing. Because he'd started to grow impatient, the memory was kind of vague and unclear. Maybe he'd just imagined it, but Conway had a feeling something similar had happened before. In addition, he gradually began to understand Ray's habits while he fought. His center of gravity leaned just slightly to the right. Occasionally, he'd raise his arm to protect his face. It seemed like it was protecting his bandaged right eye. For some reason, it looked like that to Conway. Maybe he was imagining it, or he was overthinking it, but he recalled the shaman's response. Where there is light, there is shadow. It is so for anyone, so the shaman had said. It is so for anyone. He didn't have a mind to think too hard about it, but when Conway was shown a little glimpse like that... No, that was enough. He shook his head slightly as if to reject the thought. For now, there were other things to be done. Conway. When Asato abruptly called out his name, Conway's heart leapt. When he looked up, Conway saw dark blue eyes staring at him, the red of the fire reflected in them. What is it? I'm sorry for what happened a little while ago. I was anxious and confused. His black ears were lowered in apology. No, something happened, right? It couldn't be helped. When he answered, Conway felt a secret relief that Asato was talking to him. Do you want to tell me what happened? Yeah. And then, Asato began to speak in a low, modest tone. The reason why he disappeared, it was almost exactly as Conway had thought. That night, while Conway was sleeping in the tree, a Kirin pursuer had arrived nearby. A pursuer? That's right. That's why before he could find out where you were, I left you to draw his attention. As far away as possible. In other words, Asato had risked his life back then, so the pursuer from Kira didn't find Conway? His ears folded back in gratitude. I'm sorry, but I'm happy you're safe. I really am. You don't have to apologize. I wanted to protect Conway, so I did. That's all. While Asato gave a joyful hum in the back of his throat, the tip of his tail touched Conway's tail. The casual brush of fur tickled. Embracing feelings of both bashfulness and apology, Conway lowered his head hesitantly and opened his mouth. I want to talk too, because while I was separated from you, I saw lots of things. Lots? Yeah. Now it was Conway's turn to speak. About Ray, Ranson, and then about being a Sangha. That part about being a Sangha in particular seemed to surprise Asato. A Sangha? You're a Sangha? You can sing songs? Conway nodded, and Asato's ears perked up and his tail swayed in wide arcs. In his eyes there was a bubbly light, like a child who had just discovered a treasure. That's amazing! Konaway is amazing. Not really, it's not like I can sing well or anything. But you're a Sangha. The elder said Sanghas are precious. Konaway is amazing. 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 He just kept saying it, making Konaway turn his face away in embarrassment. Asato seemed truly impressed, a purr rumbling in his throat. Next time, I want to hear Konaway sing. It's not really a song like that where it sounds good or anything, right? It's a Sangha's... But I want to hear it. Feeling like he was betraying something if he refused, Konaway was completely at a loss. Okay. Next time then, alright? He reluctantly nodded his head after all, feeling beaten down by Asato's persistence. Asato just purred, happier than ever. More importantly, is your shoulder okay? Yeah, it's not that big of a wound. The red wound that ran down the shoulder was already dried. It still looked painful, but luckily it didn't seem to be too deep. Relieved, Konaway blew a sigh. At the same time, a yawn welled up and he stifled it. Because of this feeling of relaxation, a slight feeling of drowsiness tugged at him. A little rest would be nice. Sure would. Nap time for cat boys. Konaway laid down and curled his tail around his body, listening to the crackling of the bonfire. Wasting time in a place like this? How carefree. Suddenly, a voice whispered right by his ear. Ah! His eyes shot open, and he jumped up. Ray must have detected a oh. So, that wasn't Ray then, whispering in his... Fury, maybe? Ray must have detected a presence because he jumped down from overhead, rustling the leaves and branches. Asato became alert as well, running his eyes over their surroundings. Konaway felt all of the fur on his body bristle on end in wariness. The voice just now, it had to be. Here I am. When he looked behind him, that clown, Fury, floated in the dark grove. After putting one hand on his waist, Fury put a hand on his chest, exaggeratedly slowly, and bowed. You. Oh, you have more friends? Are they reliable? Reassuring? Good for you. Fury looked at Ray and Asato and bowed to each in turn, his smile as mocking as his voice. As soon as he did so, Konaway felt a strong resentment. Konaway. Konaway had already thrown himself at Fury. The sight of Fury made uncontrollable anger suddenly overflow inside him. Whoa! Fury swiftly dodged Konaway's claws with his nimble body, as though he was made of water. Konaway turned around and once again captured Fury in his sight. His pupils were thin as needles, and a low, threatening growl spilled from his lips. Oh, scary. But don't get so angry, kitty cat. I didn't come to fight. Fury landed on the ground with the tips of his toes, smiling mischievously. Konaway was about to leap at him again, when Asato caught his shoulder. Konaway, it's no good. He breathed deeply to try and calm down, his roused feelings somewhat pacified by Asato's voice. His hands trembled slightly in response. Right. No reason to get impatient. Although, it must be hard just standing around when your time's running out. You. What do you want? You look like you're trying your hardest. In particular, I came to this forest to hear what the old cat had to say. He knew everything for some reason. Fury laughed, shaking his head slowly in amusement. Ray readied his sword, inclined his head, and glared at Fury. Is this the guy you told me about? Huh. More people are talking about me? That makes me so very happy. Shut up. You. I feel something bad about you. Asato poised himself low, his ears flattening as he growled. What is this? I haven't even done anything. Conway is suffering, and you're related to it somehow, right? That's so mean. You're saying it's my fault? Oh, now I feel like crying. Fury made a pitiful face, putting one hand on his forehead and staggering back. But soon after, he turned back around with an impish smile. I only intended to kindly guide you ahead. Jesus, you should be thanking me instead. Whose messenger are you? You want to know? Guess you really want to know, huh? Fine. I'll finally tell you. Now be quiet until I finish. Fury clasped both hands and then gestured with one deep into the woods, in the direction Conway and the others were heading. You plan to go this way, right? Go on. There's something good just a stone's throw away. Something good? Yep, but I can't tell you what, because that would be boring, right? Tilting his smiling face, Fury turned to Asato for approval. Asato furiously bared his fangs. Oh, you're so scary. Anyway, go there and see. It's a trap. Who knows? It's your choice to believe me or not. In the first place, my telling you this is like a final act of mercy. And it was from me, you know. With a tap, Fury kicked off the ground. His small body gently rose in the darkness of the forest. Backlit by the moon of shadow, Fury turned and offered a white, delicate hand to the cats below. He beckoned them quietly with a fingertip. Master Leeks is looking forward to meeting you, so come quickly. Leeks? Wait. As if Fury was walking on water, he treaded slowly, one step at a time. Asato pounced, however. Fury suddenly somersaulted and vanished into the darkness of the forest. He got away. As he landed on the ground, Asato let out a growl of frustration. Asato let out a growl of frustration. Conway stared at the empty spot where Fury had been for a while. Right before he fled, Fury had said a name that now coursed through Conway's mind. Master Leeks is looking forward to meeting you. Leeks, he muttered aloud. Leeks. Fury definitely said that. Was it the identity of the third person involved with him? It was a name he'd heard somewhere before, but he couldn't remember where. What on earth? Where was it? Where? Leeks. Oh. Leeks. Conway turned towards Ray with an amount of force that surprised even him. You know about him? It's the infamous sorcerer. I heard about him from the Elder, too. He's the magician known as the Child of Darkness. Oh, that was it. Conway remembered now. It was a name long passed down among the cats of Sissa. That was why it was familiar. However, it was thought of as just a legend, a fairy tale. It was said that a dark sorcerer named Leeks lived alone in the forest since ancient times. His existence was nothing more than a fantasy to Conway. He thought the same of the devils, though.
that is the true identity of the mastermind the shaman was speaking about, this could spell trouble.
As he sheathed his longsword, Ray frowned in bitter anger.
He makes full use of forbidden magic and summons souls. Summons ancient devils. He's unmatched in his cold-blooded cruelty. And it's said he has hidden himself for countless years, behind a barrier, hating others from a distance.
This Leeks, does he really exist?
That's just what's said. But he's so shrouded in mystery that no one knows what he even looks like, where he is, or if he's even real. Now this.
The pupil of that pale blue eye dilating, Ray looked up into that pitch black sky.
There is a rumor that the void eroding the world may be one of Leek's schemes.
The void? If his actual emotions didn't respond, his imagination couldn't catch up. Even if Leeks existed, why him? Trying to relax his strangely heightened emotions, Conway took a slow, deep breath.
The words of that clown earlier.
Ray glared through the darkness of the forest and opened his mouth.
They've definitely set up a trap by now.
Ray glanced at Conway as if to ask him. Since Fury had provoked them like that, there couldn't be nothing. Was he being mocked? No, he was being toyed with. But they couldn't retreat now. Whatever it is, even if it's a trap, it doesn't matter.
Desperate?
It's different. Even if we run away, there's no getting out of this. Let's question and crush him.
Leeks?
He heard slight enjoyment in Ray's tone. Leeks is Conway's enemy? Asato, who had been silent until now, gave a low growl. The curse is because of Leeks too?
Probably.
Asato drew his claws and scratched at the trunk of a tree right beside him. The bush shook as his claws gouged in deep, and several leaves fluttered down.
I'll kill him. No matter what kind of cat he is, I won't forgive him for making Conway suffer. Huh, you've trained him well.
It's not like that, Conway snapped back, embarrassed. He wondered why Asato would only get this angry when it concerned him. It made him glad. Since they were so similar, Conway felt quite a sense of intimacy with him. However, he didn't think he'd done anything to make Asato say things like that. Because Asato wasn't good with words, maybe he said it that way subconsciously, but Conway was inwardly surprised by how frank his tone was.
Why don't you become an animal trainer then?
That's one word too many, you. When Conway glanced at him, Ray laughed audaciously and crossed his arms, slightly shaking his head.
4 devils, and Leeks pulling all the strings. Interesting.
That's someone else's business.
Someone else's business, huh?
I'm not in someone else's business. For a moment, a vivid spark flew between Ray and Asato.
Stupid cat.
I'll kill you.
Give me a break, Jesus!
Sighing, Conway stopped the two cats before they scratched each other's eyes out. But on the other hand, he felt this situation was unusual. Usually, Rebecca fought alone. Whatever the reason, cats from different tribes rarely gathered for one purpose. Leeks the magician. And then there were the devils. Honestly, it all still didn't feel real. It was much too grand a story, but if it was true, Conway was sure that he couldn't face it alone.